Now that we have some objects laid out on our view here, let's see if we can run this app and see what it looks like. You can actually test this in a simulator by coming up here. If you click right here, it lets you choose different devices to run it on. So for example, if I wanted to test this on a 5S, I could click here, then come to this play button, which builds and compiles your code. All right, I built it, so it should pop up any second here. Drat, it's running, but everything is aligned to the right here, which might make sense because if we look here at our canvas, there's a lot of room over here, and it's bigger than an actual iPhone 5S. I've seen a lot of people make videos encouraging this behavior, so I want to show you the wrong way to do it. It is possible to click here on your view controller and set an inferred size of a smaller iPhone. Now this looks exactly like what we saw in the simulator. So you could actually come here and make it look like this and run it. And it will look pretty good for you on that single device. Okay, great. Well, that looks good on an iPhone 5S, but if I were to take this on a 6S Plus, it looks off-centered, and that's no good. You don't want to make a separate interface for every single iPhone. Ideally, you want to make one interface, and you want it to look good on all devices. Devices that have already been released, and future devices that may come out in the future. So if I wanted to, I could make this like a 5.5, and you could see on the 6S, this looks almost exactly like the simulator. But let's go back to inferred, which is our full size class here. I'm going to go ahead and select all these objects. I can select it here on the canvas. Then I'm going to move them to the center where I see guidelines here. We're going to use what's called Autolayout. And these icons down here at the bottom are your Autolayout icons. Now, it's beyond the scope of this to really go into Autolayout, but I just want you to be exposed to it and let you know that it exists. We'll have whole chapters devoted to this in future classes on app building because it's such an important topic. But for now, I'm just going to show you a quick example. So I'm going to select all my objects and come down here to the align icon. And I'm going to say I want this horizontal and container, which basically means I want this to be aligned to the center of the device. Add 3 constraints. Now we see some red lines, meaning that we have some constraints, but it's not enough. It needs more. Because the purpose of this lesson is not to go into auto layout, but just to show you that it exists, I'm just going to go ahead and come down here and add the missing constraints. For simple layouts like this, sometimes Xcode can figure out what you're trying to achieve and do it automatically for you. Let's see if that worked. Ah, it looks pretty good. It's in the center of the screen. The true test, though, will be to see how it looks on the other devices. Let's try a 5S. Wow, it's centered on that as well. And let's try a 6. Okay, it's centered on the iPhone 6 as well. So we've made one interface, and it's centered on all 3 phones we just tested it on. That's the goal of auto layout. Now comes the fun part. Let's add some functionality to this interface.